I am the branch chief of the Environmental Monitoring Branch here at the Department of Pesticide Regulation, also referred to as DPR throughout this. I also serve as today's hearing officer. So for the record, today is January 18th. It is roughly 9:33 a.m. Pacific time. We are in the Byron Sher Auditorium in the California Environmental Protection Agency building located at 1001 I Street. That is in Sacramento, California. So DPR is hosting this regulation hearing for 1,3-dichloropropene, which I will refer to as 1,3-D. In a hybrid format with options for in-person participation here at this physical meeting location, as well as remote participation through our Zoom. We have this room until 1 p.m. today, and we will work to get everyone's oral comments on record. To start off, I want to emphasize that DPR welcomes participation from all members of the public. If you know anyone who is not able to attend today, please remind them that if they wish to comment, DPR is happy to accept those comments by email sent to dpr22005@cdpr.ca.gov by the end of the day. Or by mail that is postmarked no later than today, January 18th. Instructions for submitting written comments are on the next slide, and can also be found in the notice of proposed action for health risk mitigation and volatile organic compound emissions reductions for 1,3-dichloropropene, which was published on November 18th. The director of DPR has called this hearing to receive public comments on a proposed rulemaking action. DPR proposes to adopt section 6448.3 and 6448.4, amend sections 6448, 6449.1, 6452, 6452.2, 6624, 6626, and 6881. And adopt new sections 648.1 and renumber and amend previous section 6448.1 as section 6448.2 of Title III California Code of Regulation. In summary, the proposed actions will restrict the use of 1,3-D to mitigate the potential 72-hour acute risk and 70-year lifetime cancer risk to non-occupational bystanders. The proposed mitigation measure will also further reduce the emissions of 1,3-D as a volatile organic compound referred to as VOC. The proposed action will allow the use of 1,3-D only for the production of agricultural commodities, effectively prohibiting other uses that are not currently registered, establish mandatory setbacks, which are distances from occupied structures where 1,3-D cannot be applied, set limits on the application rate and acreage treated for an individual field soil fumigation, place restrictions on multiple field soil restrictions that do not meet the distance or time separation criteria, limit the allowed method to apply 1,3-D, including criteria for acceptable types of tarpaulin that can be used, require an annual report from DPR that includes evaluation of 1,3-D use and air monitoring results, and require the inclusion of certain information in existing pesticide use records and pesticide use reports. This public hearing is also for the purpose of accepting comments on amendments that may become part of the Ozone State Implementation Plan, or SIP. The Federal Clean Air Act requires that each state with non-attainment areas to submit a SIP for achieving and maintaining federal ambient air quality standards for ozone. California's SIP contains an element to reduce pesticidal sources of VOCs. These proposed regulations amend and add to the regulation that were previously submitted to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, or US EPA, to support commitments made in the 2022 state strategy for the SIP. An opportunity to comment and a hearing on the proposed regulation as part of the SIP method are being provided in conjunction with this 1,3-D rulemaking. If adopted, DPR provides these amendments to the California Air Resources Board to submit to the US EPA as revisions to that California SIP. Today's proceeding is an official government proceeding provided 4 in the rulemaking provisions of the California Administrative Procedural Act, beginning at Government Code Section 11346. This hearing is intended to allow members of the public an opportunity to participate in the rulemaking process by providing comments and suggestions on how to improve the proposed regulation. As previously mentioned, the proposed rulemaking actions was officially noticed on November 18th of 2022. On that date, DPR also opened the public comment period. The public comment period is scheduled to close today, January 18th, 2023 at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And until that time, written comments will be accepted. DPR will accept written comments that are submitted via U.S. mail and postmarked no later than January 18, 2023. DPR will also accept comments transmitted via email to dpr22005@cdpr.ca.gov or by fax at 916-324-1491, no later than 5 p.m. today. DPR's mailing address, email, and facsimile numbers are displayed on this page. For the record, the materials that serve as background for this hearing is in the rulemaking file. The rulemaking file consists of notice of proposed action, the proposed text, the initial statement of reason, the economic and fiscal impact statement, and a grouping of documents referred to as documents relied upon. After the close of the comment period, DPR will respond in writing to all timely received comments that were received in a document called the final statement of reason. And that document, along with the transcription of this hearing, will become part of the official rulemaking file. DPR will respond to all comments after the close of the comment period. So in order to allow adequate opportunity for public comment, each commenter will be allowed 1.5 minutes. We ask that you respect this time limit. If you exceed the time limit, I will encourage you to wrap up your comments. DPR asks that you direct your comments specific to the content of the proposed regulations, focusing on what changes you would like to improve them. In addition, if there are elements of the proposed regulation that are particularly supportive of, please let us know.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Teresa Gómez, vengo del condado de Ventura. Estoy aquí para dar mi comentario al Estado, porque el 1,3-D, este químico, es cancerígeno.
Good morning, my name is Teresa Gomez, and I am here to give my comments to the state. I'm here to talk about this chemical 1,3-D. This is a cancer-causing chemical. It has already been banned in 74 countries. I don't know why it hasn't been banned in our state.
Ahorita estamos rociándonos, nuestras familias que viven cercanas en los campos de agricultura están siendo rociados por estos químicos. Nosotros vivimos en Ventura, que se usa muchísimo en el cultivo de fresa.
Right now they are spraying this chemical, and our families are being subjected to the spray. We live in Ventura County, where this chemical is used quite a bit in strawberry crops.
Y pedimos que sigan la ciencia, que no ignoren lo que la ciencia les está diciendo para protección a nuestras familias o hija. Ellos saben que 14 veces más este químico es más fuerte y es el gran riesgo que causa a nuestras familias.
We ask the state to follow the science. We ask the state to follow the science to protect our families. We ask that you follow what HHA or OIHA has stated. They know that this is a very toxic chemical. We ask for protection for our families.
Como ustedes pueden ver, nosotros manejamos desde 8 horas de retirado. ¿Por qué? Porque nos importa nuestra salud, nos importa nuestras familias. Vienen niños con nosotros porque son niños afectados a causa de todos estos químicos.
As you know, it took us 8 hours to drive here. It was a long distance for us to drive, but we came because we care for our families, because we want to protect our children. Our children are being affected by these substances.
pedimos que protejan más a nuestras comunidades, como ustedes mismos, se lo vuelvo a repetir, ya en 34 países este químico fue retirado. ¿Por qué aquí en Estados Unidos queremos este químico fuera de nuestras familias, fuera de nuestros niños, fuera de la comunidad agrícola? Todo lo que ocasiona cáncer debe ser retirado de nuestras familias.
We ask that you try to do everything to better protect our families. As I said before, it has been banned in 34 countries already. We want this substance away and out of our families, away from our children, away from our agricultural communities. All of these substances that cause cancer should be taken out of our communities.
Estamos aquí para dar nuestros comentarios. Gracias, tómenos en cuenta porque en realidad venimos desde muy lejos. Gracias.
We came to offer our comments. Please take them into consideration. We came from very, very far away for you to hear us. Thank you.
Todos. Mi nombre es Marisela, vengo de la ciudad de Arvin, California. Nada más para dar mi testimonio del DPR, que este químico Telone es cancerígeno. Y no deberían estar en nuestras vidas, en nuestras comunidades. Ya que afectan la salud de nuestros hijos y de todo el mundo. Por eso pedimos no DPR. En todas nuestras comunidades. Gracias.
Mi nombre es Victoria Gabriel y vengo de Lamont. Nos llevamos varias horas de camino, pero es importante estar aquí. 1,3D, basta. Ocupamos trabajar.
Hello, good morning. My name is Victoria Gabriel. We've come here from Lamont. It took us several hours to drive here, but it's okay because we need to be here enough. We need to get 1,3D out of our communities.
El trabajo es importante. Somos trabajadores esenciales, pero no queremos cáncer. Paremos, por favor.
We are essential workers, but we don't need cancer. Let's stop.
Work is
please.
important and we are essential workers, but we don't want to get cancer. Let's stop this, please.
Yo embarazada trabajé
When I was pregnant, I worked
en el field
in the fields,
y desgraciadamente mi hija nació
and
con asma.
unfortunately, my daughter was born with asthma.
I was pregnant and I worked in the fields, and unfortunately, my daughter was born with asthma.
Qué feo es vivir con miedo. Qué feo es
It
estar en
is
el
horrendous to
hospital.
live with fear. It is horrendous to be in the
It's
hospital.
terrible to live with fear. It's terrible to be in the hospital.
Necesito el trabajo, pero no
I need
necesito el
to work,
cáncer.
but I don't
Paremos.
need the cancer.
I need
Afuera,
the work.
1,3D.
I need the work.
1,3D needs to go.
But I don't need cancer. Let's get rid of 1,3D.
Gracias. Mi hija Grisel Sánchez hizo este cartelón.
Thank you. My daughter, Grisel Sanchez, she drew up this poster.
La amo. Necesito a mi hija, no necesito el cáncer. Con permiso.
I love her. I need my daughter. I don't need cancer. Thank you.
Guadalupe S.
Estoy aquí para dar mi testimonio. Yo vengo del condado de Kern. Yo estoy en un tratamiento de cáncer porque he sido afectada por los pesticidas. Quiero que por favor retiren
Because I've been
todos los
affected by
pesticidas
pesticides. I want all
dañinos que nos
pesticides,
ocasionan
harmful
cáncer,
pesticides,
porque
to be
ustedes no
removed
tienen la
that are
idea
causing us cancer, because you have no idea
de lo doloroso que es agarrar un
how
tratamiento de
painful it
cáncer.
is to have to be treated for cancer.
Estoy luchando contra el cáncer
I am fighting
y sigo
against
luchando
cancer, and I continue to fight.
y estos pesticidas no dañan nada más a la persona que tiene cáncer, sino a toda la familia, a todos los que están
Who has
alrededor,
cancer, but the whole family, everybody around them.
que estiman a la paciente que está dañada. Los invito a que se tomen
So
un
it's
día
not just the patient who
para que
receives the
vean
harm.
a
I invite you
las
to take
personas
one day to
que
go
están
see
postrados en una cama.
these people
Un
laying
día quiero que
on the
ustedes vayan
bed.
para que vean
Someday,
cómo
I
pierden la
want you to
vida
come and see
cientos de personas.
how hundreds of people are losing their lives.
Mi compañera de cama tiene un mes que perdió la vida.
A partner passed away a month
Ella
ago,
llorando, pidiéndome que yo le ayudara a quitar ese dolor.
asking me
Y yo sin
to
poder
help her
hacerlo
stop
porque
the
yo
pain,
también
and
lo he
I couldn't
sentido.
do it
Y
because I
esto
was
va a
also
seguir
being dead. And
si
this
ustedes no
will
ponen
continue
un alto.
unless you put a
No
stop
se fijen en llenar sus
to
bolsillos.
this. Don't just worry about the
Hay métodos que se pueden hacer para terminar con esta enfermedad que ocasionan los
so
pesticidas.
that we can do away with the diseases caused by these pesticides.
Ahorita soy yo, mañana puede ser cualquiera de ustedes que están aquí sentados.
Tomorrow it could be any of you.
Y a lo mejor es cuando ustedes van a tomar medidas para que se acabe todo
You would
esto.
take measures
Cuando
to
les
stop
llegue de
all
cerca la
this.
enfermedad.
When the disease
Porque mientras no lo
touches your
sepan y
lives.
no lo vivan,
Because
van a seguir
unless you see it and
apoyando
live
todo lo
it,
que
you will
está
continue to
en contra, a lo
support
mejor de sus manos. ¿Por qué? Porque son
everything that actually goes against your best
parte
interest.
de esta enfermedad, ¿verdad? Que ustedes no saben lo doloroso que es.
Of this. You don't know how painful it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I am Karen Urso, Karinurso. I am a public health nurse and a nurse educator living in Kern County. My nursing and public health aid colleagues and my nursing students tell me their lived experiences working in fields with their families. As children, they were taught to cover their faces with a bandana when chemicals such as 1,3-D were sprayed nearby. This was their only protection. Cancer is now the leading cause of death in Kern County. In most communities, it would be heart disease. When I started public health nursing in 2005, the fire department trained me to respond to pesticide emergencies using a new unit that had indoor showers for decontamination. Previously, they had had to spray people with a fire hose when they were called to a pesticide overspray. These farm workers being exposed to pesticides are permanent members of my community. I asked Cal DPR to include stringent farm worker protections in the 1,3-D regulations that would follow OES safe harbor level, to work to lower our air concentrations of 1,3-D, which are far above OES warning level and which affect our entire community. We're doing our part. Now, please, you do yours.
Hi, my name is Asha Sharma. That's spelled A-S-H-A, and then last name S-H-A-R-M-A. I'm the organizing co-director with Pesticide Action Network. Here to make comments on behalf of the organization today. The state needs to adopt the lower safe harbor level as supported by OECA scientists of 3.7 micrograms per day, rather than adopt the industry-supported level of 50 micrograms per day, a rate that is 14 times higher. 1,3-D is a clear carcinogen and is therefore banned in 34 countries. And importantly, cancer risk for 1,3-D exposure is just one risk factor that people exposed to other carcinogens in rural areas experience over their lifetime. Residents are facing all other kinds of contaminants that increase their cancer risk, including other fumigants. Lastly, the worker bystander protections and a total application cap must be included in the revision of this rule. In a survey of illnesses due to pesticide drift from 1998 to 2006, the largest proportion of large-scale drift events analyzed in the study were due to fumigant pesticides. Bystander exposure is a serious concern for fumigant pesticides like 1,3-D, especially given the proposed removal of the application cap for this fumigant. In conclusion, we need much stricter regulations of 1,3-D. There are effective alternatives, such as diversifying our agricultural systems so we don't have buildups of soil-borne pests and diseases, and other practices like anaerobic soil disinfestations. We ask that DPR fulfill their mission and work to phase out 1,3-D and other dangerous fumigants to protect public health. Thank you.
Big Bag Safe Schools, Monterey County. When can the public expect to receive data that regards to pesticides use in California from 2019 to 2022? We've been kept in the blind. There's insufficient air monitoring. Does CDPR have plans to expand air monitor systems beyond the 6 currently in California? Will there be an air monitor system reestablished in Salinas, the salad bowl of the world? It was removed in 2016 with high levels. How does CDPR address the high levels of 1,3-D at all 6 monitoring stations, including the one closest to Salinas near Telone Elementary School where kids are at risk? 1,3-D has been banned in 34 countries for causing cancer. Its CDPR now proposes its expanded use, ignoring OEA's science in lieu of the chemical company's standard, which is 14 times weaker. You need to revise the plan to regulate 1,3-D following the state scientists' safe harbor level, using application allowances should be strengthened, not eliminated. If anything, this chemical should be banned. There needs to be environmental justice. This is a disregard, a devaluation of people of color, particularly because they're the primary ones affected. And I find it especially suspicious that you side with the chemical company when most of your funding comes from the mill tax on pesticides fund. Stop selling out. Care about the public health. This is ridiculous.
My name is Catherine Dodd, CATHERINE-DODD. I began my nursing career as a maternal child health nurse, and that's what motivates me to be here today. DPR's mission is to protect the public health, and it seems as though these regulations entirely fail to do this. I'm alarmed that the dangerous use of 1,3-D is being allowed at the same levels that the packaging on the chemical itself is established. Who wrote the regulations? Again, the previous speaker mentioned the mill fee. I can't believe, or I don't want to believe, that DPR just adopted this level, which is 14 times OEA's safe harbor level, only to fund your own budget. And we will help you find a way to fund your budget without having this perverse reverse incentive. The regs fail to protect farm workers and bystanders. We need measurable standards, measurable enforceable standards. The regs must establish limits on use. The pilot methods are inadequate, unenforceable, and unmeasurable. We must preserve the running tally so that there's actual reporting. And the instructions heretofore were from the court were to limit emissions, and all these do is create unproven pilot projects. I do want to comment on the SIP. It's unfortunate that I only have 90 seconds to comment on both things, but in terms of the SIP, Central Valley has the worst air pollution in the United States. We know
Catherine,
that
could you please wrap up your comments? You have reached your deadline.
Okay, the SIP, as written, must be adopted with the lower levels, the protective levels for our ozone, to protect the air quality in the Central Valley and protect the people who live there. It's an environmental justice issue, and it's essential that DPR help to lower those ozone levels. Thank you.
My name is Joshua Ezekiel, Joshua. Ezekiel. I'm speaking to you from Salinas, California. I'm a retired teacher. And we're here discussing the regulation of Telone 1,3-D, a known carcinogen. For some reason, the Department of Pesticide Regulation is considering allowing exposure of the people to 14 times the amount of this known carcinogen banned in 34 countries that its own Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment has recommended. I'm here asking you to please follow the science, follow OEHA, and adopt the safer OEHA level of exposure. Thank you.
Hola, buenos días. Mi nombre es Flor Yasmin Alvarado. Vengo del condado de Ventura.
Hi, good morning. I am Flor Jasmine Alvarado. I am here from Ventura County.
Me gustaría decirle al Estado que mi
I
vida
would
vale
like to
más
tell the
que
state
el
that my
telón.
life is worth more than Telone.
Actualmente trabajo en las
I
fresas y he
currently
sido
work
afectada
in
por
strawberry
ciertos
fields and have
pesticidas.
been impacted by certain pesticides.
Más que nada yo pienso en mis hijas. Tengo dos gemelas
Particularly, I have 2 twin daughters.
que día a día no puedo trabajar todos los días porque tengo que estarlas cuidando.
I can't work every day because I have to take care of them.
A causa de estos pesticidas ellas no se
And
escuchan.
because of these pesticides,
Es para mí triste ver a mi hija y decirle te amo y que ella no
they
sepa qué le
do
estoy
not
diciendo.
hear. It is sad for me to tell my daughter, I love you, and for her to not know what I'm telling her.
El telón está prohibido en 34
Telone is
países,
prohibited in 34 countries.
pero en Estados Unidos no.
However, not
¿Por
in
qué
the US.
razón?
Why?
¿No vale la vida de uno?
Are our
¿No vale
lives
la
not
vida
worth
de los
it?
niños?
Are the lives of our children not worth it?
Actualmente en las fresas se utiliza este
Currently,
pesticida.
in strawberry fields, we're using this pesticide.
En el aire, ahorita que estamos, mis hijas sufren alergias. ¿Y qué es lo que me
Now, my
dicen?
daughters are also suffering
Por el
from
cambio de
allergies
clima.
because of what's in the air. And what do the doctors tell me? Oh, it's changing weather.
Pero no saben que en los hospitales
But they don't know
hay muchos niños muriendo de cáncer.
that there are many children dying of cancer at hospitals.
Mi vida vale más que el
My
telón.
life is worth more.
Y estoy aquí por mí, por mi comunidad, que no puede alzar la voz, pero yo estoy representando a toda esa gente que está ahorita en los files trabajando, que están siendo esprayados,
Right now, and who are being sprayed.
que antes utilizaban los tractores
Who used to
sin ningún equipo de protección,
work on tractors without
y ahora ¿qué usan?
before.
Avionetas que nos rocean, como si fuéramos unos
Planes
mosquitos.
that spray us like we're
Es lo que está pasando. Yo pido de su apoyo,
That's what's going on.
no
I
más
ask
el telón. Gracias.
For your support, no more Telone. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Grecia Orozco, that's Grecia or
Buenos días, Grecia Orozco. Yeah.
DPR's 130 regulation is not enough to fully protect primarily Latin and Hispanic farm workers. Currently, applications of 130 exceed the OEHA safe harbor level up to 2.5 to 2.9 times than what is allowed. We therefore urge DPR to implement more strict measures or eliminate the entire use of Telone near these communities. With Californians, farm workers being primarily Latin and Hispanic, and farm workers having to apply or live next to the applications of Telone, they face a disparate impact of Telone applications. These applications are primarily felt more in Spanish-speaking Latin and Hispanic communities, and DPR's refusal to use the recommended maximum average annual air levels or safe harbor level would result in higher emissions exposure to these communities. As such, this regulation would also allow for greater numbers of applications based on the plot acreage levels or size levels where application will be made, which increases the number of applications, further increasing the risk of these Latin and Hispanic farm workers facing this pesticide risk. We ask DPR to therefore implement stricter stricter levels of Telone application or eliminating Telone as it is banned in 34 countries. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Ann Catton from California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation. We need to work to eliminate use of Telone and in the meantime greatly tighten this regulation by, as many have said, designing it to control to the safe harbor level. In addition, a pesticide regulation that excludes low-income Latinx farm workers who can continue to work right next to treated fields is an outrageous environmental justice that must be corrected. By reducing the application plot size to control acute exposures, this regulation will also increase the number of possible days of work adjacent or close to very recently fumigated fields for field workers, tractor drivers, and irrigators preparing other field sections for fumigation. Simple math also shows that a rule designed to control immediate exposures to a 72-hour average of 55 ppb can't be relied on to prevent a lifetime exposure above even the 0.56 ppb level. The modeling used is just too optimistic. Finally, it is reckless to eliminate the existing township cap and the requirement for keeping a running tally, given the uncertainties in estimating exposure reductions from new modeling and small pilots. We need a tighter regulation because we can't undo exposures once they occur. Thank you.
Yes, mi nombre es Petra Flores.
Good morning, my name is Petra Flores.
Petraflores.
Petraflores.
Vengo de la ciudad de Oxnard, del condado de Ventura.
I'm here from Ventura County, this is the city of Oxnard.
Estoy aquí para exigir al Departamento de Regulación de Pesticidas
And I'm here to demand that the Department of Pesticide Regulations
que prohíba o restringa el pesticida fumigante cancerígeno 1,3-D o Telone.
forbid the use of the cancer-causing pesticide 1,3-D or Telone.
Este pesticida está como compuesto orgánico volátil, es contaminante tóxico del aire y cancerígeno.
This is an air toxic that causes cancer, and it's VOC, a volatile organic compound.
En California es el tercer pesticida más utilizado en la agricultura.
In California, this is the third most used pesticide in agriculture.
Tomen en cuenta que es mejor prevenir que curar. Siga la ciencia.
Take into account that it is better to prevent than to cure, and follow the science.
Días. Mi nombre es Irene Gómez
Good
y
morning, my name is Irene Gomez.
IRENEGOMEZ.
IRENEGOMEZ.
Hoy quiero que el DPR sepa que el pesticida 1,3-D
Today I want DPR to know that the pesticide 1,3-D
es un pesticida cancerígeno que se usa 10 veces más en los 11 condados
is a cancer-causing pesticide that is used 10 times more often in the 11 counties.
con poblaciones mayoritariamente latinas.
With a majority Latinx population.
Yo soy residente de Nyland Acres del condado de Ventura y en mi propia experiencia yo tuve a mi hijo que nació prematuro a los 8 meses. Estuvo un mes en el hospital. Yo sé que para ustedes es un niño más, pero para mí es mi vida. Por eso no les vengo a pedir, les vengo a exigir que paren los pesticidas.
I'm not here to ask, I'm here to demand that you stop the use of this pesticide.
Muchas gracias.
Good morning, Rebecca Baskins, REBECCA-BASKINS of Consories and Conway, here on behalf of many of our agricultural clients, such as American Pistachio Growers, California Fresh Fruit Association, and Western Agricultural Processors Association. We thank DPR for their progress in this regulatory process, but wanted to offer the following comments. First and foremost, soil fumigation is essential. Therefore, the regulation needs to be based on all available science. So we request that DPR update its 1.3D risk assessment using current weight of evidence analysis before completing the rulemaking. We are also concerned with the soil moisture requirements, as this increased saturation requirement will result in an inefficient use of scarce water supplies. We are appreciative of the department's clarification of non-residential ag buildings as not being occupied structures by default. However, we are concerned with the setback distances proposed, as this will prove very impactful to farm operations and could lead to untreated rows and other unintended consequences. In conclusion, we provided further written comments that go into more detail for your consideration. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and we look forward to working with you further on this.
Buenos días. Mi nombre es Pedro.
Good morning. My name is Pedro Ramirez. P as in Pop, E, D, R as in Red, O as in Orlando, Ramirez. Was that good?
Okay, I'm assuming that was fine. So just to appeal to you guys, thank you for opening yourselves to this public comment. I just really, my heart is inspired by the farm workers that came out here to move against 1.3D. As we can see, it's been banned in multiple countries, not just one, not just two, but 34. And it's one of those things where we all know that it has carcinogen potential. So I would just move to ban it entirely. That would be my recommendation. But as a DPR, you guys know better. I'm assuming you guys have done your research. I know that you guys need to move with deliberation on this and make sure that you have some kind of transitional phase. So if that means adapting the 14 times stronger level of exposure, then that's what I would recommend. Of course, these are farm workers that are essential workers. We should treat them as such. And my recommendation would be just to ban it entirely. Of course, you'll be receiving a written statement with a little bit more strongly worded information. But again, we're just trying to remove this carcinogen from our Central Valley, especially I come from the Stanislaus County. We know the effects of this on our population. And so we ask that, again, either ban it or at least adopt the 14 times stronger measure. Thank you.
My name is Jacob, and I'm with the Agricultural Council of California, JACOB. We represent many small farmer-owned operations, as well as some of the most recognizable agricultural brands from California, and I want to thank DPR for the opportunity to provide comment today. We've joined in a coalition of other representatives of agricultural interests in submitting a written comment. And so I suggest you look towards those for more detailed explanation of what I'm providing today. Our main concern is centering around the increase in the soil moisture requirement from 25 to 50%. And we're concerned about the impact that has on water resources during severe drought periods, specifically as it relates to the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. Additionally, we believe that irrigation needs likely won't line up with the application or fumigation needs of the field or the crop, and that waiting on natural precipitation to meet the 50% soil moisture requirement could disrupt pest management strategies and therefore impact yields. This is also exacerbated by the extended seasonal restrictions of restricting applications during the winter and high precipitation months of the year. Again, I thank you for the opportunity.
My name is Vanessa Forsythe, V-A-N-E-S-S-A, Forsythe, F-O-R-S-Y-T-H-E. I'm with California Nurses for Environmental Health and Justice and the California Pesticide Reform. I am a retired school nurse, and from the perspective of that, who is being most harmed are those who live close by to where this fumigant is being applied, but it also travels by air and water. And the concern is that specifically, it has been noted that, the plan allows for 14 times more cancer causing 1,3-D in the air than what WEHA has recommended. And I urge you to not go by what the manufacturers of pesticides are recommending. We need to do and protect the health more of people impacted. I hope I can just cite that in a specific school area, the amount, which was the Old Home Elementary School in North Monterey, had records of much higher fumigant than is recommended in terms of safety. So, with only 6 pesticide air monitors
Vanessa,
in
your time
California,
has come up. Could you please wrap up your comment?
we need to do more to protect children.
Buenos dias, my name is Olet Moran. I live in Oxnard in Western County. My family has worked in Oxnard's fields for 3 generations, and I am here to speak because pesticides, namely Telone, 1,3-D, have forcibly and violently become part of our everyday life here. And the more I learn about these pesticides, the more I realize the injustice it is to families like mine. As you see here today, a huge part of our immigrant working class families work in the fields or have a mom, dad, aunt, uncle, friend, child who works in the fields. 1,3-D is the 3rd most used pesticide in California with 12 million pounds a year, and it's mainly used with strawberries and almonds. Here in Oxnard, strawberries are our top crop. We pick the strawberries and then we eat the strawberries. It should follow science because Telone is killing our families with cancer, and yet it is used more than it should. Average concentration says that it exceeds safe harbor levels based on air monitors at public schools. Yes, at public schools, and that's because Telone is not only in the fields, it surrounds our community while we are studying, while we're in our homes, while we distress with a nice walk. Please, I beg you, please stop this violence. Protect families like ours. We're surrounded by this chemical. Why is it that families like ours and our lives are worth less? Please, protect our health and our families. Thank you.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Cintia Burgos. CYMTHIA.
Good morning, I'm Cynthia Bliss, say CINTHIABURGOS.
Buenos días, antes que nada, yo soy una campesina que ha trabajado todo el Valle Central, empezando desde la ciudad de Lamún hasta la ciudad de Salinas por 15 años. He sido despegada varias veces, la última vez fue en el 20, cuando estábamos en la pandemia, donde se los llamó esenciales, pero nunca nos han tratado como esenciales. Hemos sido esprayados, hemos entrado a los campos de cebolla, nos han esprayado. Yo quedé ciega por unos segundos cuando nos esprayaron. Mis compañeros y yo empezamos a vomitar, nos sacaron y nos echaron agua. Pero durante esos 15 años tengo 2 niños, uno de 12 años y una de 9 años que nacieron con asma. Pienso que es hora de que paremos todo esto. Nuestros niños necesitan sus padres.
Our children, their parents.
Es triste ver a un niño que no pueda respirar.
It is sad to see a child who cannot breathe.
Estar en la sala de un hospital y esperando para entrar al cuarto de otro cuando los dos tienen asma.
It's sad to see another parent waiting to go into an ER room when they're both suffering from asthma.
Creo que la vida de cada uno de mis
I believe
compañeros
that the life of each of my colleagues
que trabajamos en el campo valemos, pero
who
nos
work in
están
the
haciendo
field
ver
are worth it, but
que valemos 14 veces menos.
they're showing us that we're worth 14 times less.
Somos los que alimentamos el país.
We are the people feeding the country.
Somos los que en la pandemia levantamos el país.
We are the ones who uplifted the country during the
Creo que
pandemic.
merecemos un respeto más que
I
nada.
believe that we deserve respect more than anything else.
Y le pido al Estado que pare con todo
So I ask
esto.
the state to please stop all of this.
Ya suficientes enfermedades tenemos en este momento
We've had
como
more
para
than
cargar con
enough
un cáncer.
disease to add cancer to that burden.
Nuestros hijos merecen vivir libres de
Our
enfermedades.
children deserve to live free of disease.
Gracias.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Evelyn Mendoza. Estoy aquí trabajo para la organización Proyecto Mixteco
And I
Indígena.
work for Proyecto Mixteco Indígena, Indigenous Mixtec Project.
Estoy aquí para hablar en contra del telón, que es un
To speak
pesticida
out against Telone, which is a pesticide
que causa cáncer a nosotros
that
los
causes
trabajadores
cancer
agrícolas.
on us, the agricultural workers.
Los últimos 22 años he trabajado en los campos
The last
agrícolas de
22
California
years, I have worked in California ag fields.
y he vivido en carne propia lo que
I
es trabajar
have
bajo el
personally
pesticida
lived
y todo
through
el
what
químico
it's
que se
like
aplica.
to work under this pesticide and the rest of the chemicals that are applied.
Hace 3 años me quitaron
3
la
years
matriz
ago.
porque me detectaron cáncer.
I had to have my
Hace 2 años falleció mi
because
amigo
of
Daniel
cancer. 2
de
years
cáncer.
ago, my friend Daniel died of cancer.
Hace 8 meses murió mi compañera de trabajo de cáncer. Todos y cada uno de ellos trabajadores del campo.
All of them were,
Y cada uno de ellos lo único que hacían era trabajar para alimentar a su
all
familia.
each of them did was to work to feed their own families.
Quiero que quien tenga que regularizar esto lo
Now, whoever
regularice.
has to regularize this needs to do so.
Porque nos están exterminando como si fuéramos cucaracha y no lo somos, somos seres humanos.
Roaches, and we're not, we're human beings.
Y cuando ya estamos desahuciados, los doctores nos usan como
When there's
experimento
nothing
para
left
sus nuevos
for us,
tratamientos.
doctors use us
Eso
as
fue lo que le
experiments.
pasó a Daniel, eso fue lo que le
That
pasó a
is what
Mario,
happened.
y eso fue lo que me
That's
pasó a
what
mí.
happened to Maggie. That's what happened to me.
Y lo que no ven es que nosotros tenemos familia que nos está esperando.
What they don't see is that we have families who are waiting for us.
Y cuando hay un químico que se aplica en los campos agrícolas, donde yo he trabajado los últimos 22 años, ponen el aviso en inglés. Nosotros no sabemos leer inglés, apenas sabemos hablar español.
We barely
Muchas
speak
gracias.
Spanish. Thank you very much.
Centurio Esponza.
Creo que nuestros compañeros y yo no venimos a una fiesta, a celebrar algo, venimos por necesidad y por eso creo que es necesario que escuchen nuestros comentarios. Por mi parte, creo que es muy importante analizar lo que se está haciendo en los campos agrícolas. Muchas de nuestras comunidades no saben leer, no saben escribir y al empleador se le da la gana de rociar los bloques con químico. Yo cuando estuve trabajando en la fresa hace 2 años, estábamos en lonche y el empleador mandó a su trabajador para que fumigara el bloque siguiente y estábamos comiendo, agarrando lonche y el otro tractor fumigando. Y creo que es una pena que esto esté sucediendo en el condado de Ventura. El condado de Ventura se divide porque está la ciudad de Osna rodeada de cultivos agrícolas, rodeada de químicos, y la ciudad de Ventura pues está limpia y creo que necesitamos analizar eso. Siempre trato de platicar con la comunidad, conversar con ellos y por medio de las amistades he conocido mucha gente trabajadora agrícola que ha perdido a su niño, ha perdido a su bebé. En mi caso, me duele mencionarlo porque en el año 2021, mi niño nació en el 2020 y nació de 6 meses por causa de químicos.
I believe that our colleagues and I are not here to celebrate or to party. We're here out of need. And that is why I think that it is necessary for you to listen to what we have to say. I think that it is very important to really look into what is going on in these agricultural fields. Many of our communities don't know how to read, don't know how to write, and then the employer decides he's going to be spraying a pesticide. And when I worked on strawberry fields 2 years ago, one time we were on our lunch break and the employer sent another worker to spray the next block, and there we were eating our lunch, and the other worker was fumigating on a tractor right there. And it's a shame that this is happening in Ventura County. Ventura County is split because we have the city of Oxnard that is surrounded by agricultural fields and chemicals, and then the city of Ventura, which is clean. So we need to really investigate that. And I have tried to talk to the community, and through my friends, I've been able to meet many people who are also agricultural workers and who have lost a child, who have lost a baby. And in my case, and it's painful to talk about this, but in 2021, or rather my child was born in 2020, I should say that first, and was born premature at 6 months because of the chemicals.
Yes, my name is Horacio Mezquita, Horacio Amzquita, and I'm calling from Salinas, the Valley Bowl of the world, where lots of vegetables and fruits are growing. I live in a community where people are dying of cancer, and people are getting sick of cancer. The community is surrounded 360 degrees of agriculture fields, so they get sprayed lots of time during the year. I think most of the farm workers are the ones that are suffering more, the ones that are dying, and they're the ones that are putting the food on the table for every American and every people in the world. So I think DPR has the responsibility to defend the health of these workers and the public. So I suggest that you adopt measures that the public health department or HIA is telling you what is safer. And if you cannot do that, then you should ban Telone, because you cannot put the lives of people at risk or dead just because pesticide companies have profited. So
I'm here today to ask that you redesign your proposal. More than 1.3 million pounds of 1,3-D are applied in the fields of Stanislaus County, specifically in 2021. That's more than 1/5 of the county's total pesticide use. Your current regulation as written fails to actually protect public health. It excludes farm workers entirely. It's illegally ignoring the recommendations of the state's experts risk assessment branch from OEHA. It uses cancer risk levels that is 14 times higher than OEHA's recommendations. It removes existing limits on use. It relies on small, unproven, and unlimited pilot methods for reducing emissions instead of restricting use. It relies on measures that will be difficult or impossible to verify and enforce. It removes the running use tally, replacing it with an annual report with no deadline. As you already know, 1,3-D is Prop 6 carcinogen. It's a toxic air contaminant. It's the third most heavily used pesticide in California. It's highly prone to drift, and it's banned in 34 countries. You must go back to the table and redesign and adopt OEHA standards and add farm worker protections now.
As a healthcare worker, I call on you to redesign your rule for cancer-causing 1,3-D. I urge you to follow the official Prop 65 safe harbor level established by OEHA of 3.7 micrograms per day, as opposed to your current 50 micrograms per day, for which the manufacturer, Dow Chemical, advocated for. I agree with others who have said if you can't reduce the amount, then this chemical needs to be banned. Application cap allowances need to be reduced or strengthened, not eliminated. Farm workers, bystanders, and their family must be included. To leave them out is egregious. Farm workers are the heart of our food system, and this regulation needs to prioritize health protective measures by following Prop 65 safe harbor levels, or banning this chemical outright. I urge you to include and adequately protect every farm worker and every child in our farming community. The science has spoken, the farm worker community has spoken, the healthcare workers have spoken. After listening, what will the state say? Will the state say they prioritize the interests of Dow Chemical, or will they commit to following the science and protecting the health of our hard-working farming families who feed America? Respect our farmers and protect public health. Thank you for your time.
I'm with Science for the People, an activist science organization, one of 126 organizations that signed a letter to DPR urging a revised regulation with tighter restrictions on the use of Telone, as well as other provisions to strengthen the protection of Californians. But maybe we should be asking ourselves why Telone is used at all, because it's necessary? No, after the European Commission voted 16 years ago to phase out the use of Telone because of threats to public health and biodiversity, did the production of fruits and vegetables cease in Europe? No, European countries continue to grow the berries, grapes, and carrots that we're led to believe require the use of Telone when they're grown in California. No, the real reason is that agrochemical companies like Dow have succeeded in hooking U.S. agriculture on their products, on the whole elaborate system of industrial agriculture, which we know not only harms public health in ways we're hearing about today, but also contributes to climate change. So yes, it requires an effort to transform a system that a whole industry is addicted to begin to implement alternatives to poisons like Telone, alternatives that we know exist. But really it's a matter of priorities. What matters more? The people you've heard from today whose lives have been directly affected by poisons like this, or the profit margins of companies like Dow and the growers in our state?
Jane Sellen, Janeselle, Californians for Pesticide Reform. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. We've turned out in numbers today because what DPR has proposed is unacceptable to us. You've heard from previous commenters the many ways in which this regulation falls short of protecting those impacted by extremely high use of this toxic, drift-prone, and carcinogenic chemical. You've heard that this chemical is banned in 34 countries, that it's used disproportionately in Latinx farm working communities, posing a severe environmental injustice in our state. The focus of your rulemaking must be on reducing use and supporting growers to change their practices so that soil fumigation is no longer needed. We are outraged that this draft regulation cynically excludes farm workers so that you can ignore OEHA and use Dow Chemical's preferred numbers instead. We note that DPR's rulemaking for this chemical is at odds with the department's public commitment to attaining the North Star of safe and sustainable pest management, including a 90% reduction goal for hazardous chemicals, of which this toxic air contaminant is surely one. DPR is also pursuing reform of the pesticide mill fee, by which currently the department is funded directly by pesticide sales. Simply put, DPR's budget depends on continued high use of pesticides, especially heavily used blockbuster fumigants like 1,3-D. This must change. Please go back to the drawing board, revise your regulation, use the latest science, guided by OIHA. Thank you.
Mi nombre es Luz Ramírez, soy voluntaria de Unión de Campesinos. Bueno, pues acá estoy como trabajadora y como comunidad. Estoy muy preocupada en el uso del 1,3-D, porque en experiencia propia mi familia está siendo afectada por el pesticida. De igual manera, en la comunidad ya no queremos más muertes, queremos una vida sana para nuestros niños. Y lo que espero que nuestras voces sean escuchadas, que no quede todo en el aire. Queremos que nos tomen en cuenta a lo que venimos. Muchas gracias. Y queremos también queremos que se basen a la ciencia. Gracias.
Glad. My name is Luz Ramirez, L-U-C-R-A-M-I-R-E-Z, and I volunteer with Unión de Campesinos. And I am here as a worker and as a member of the community, and I am very concerned with the use of 1,3-D, because in my own experience, I have lived it. My family has been impacted by this pesticide. In addition, in our community, we don't want to see any more deaths. We want to be able to live a healthy life and have a healthy life for our children. And I hope that our voices will be heard, for everything to not just be left up in the air. We want to be taken into account, and for you to listen to why we came here today. And we also want for you to make decisions based on science. Thank you.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Mars Withdrawn, M-A-R-S, y vengo a exponer la
Good
voz.
morning, ma'am. Mars Withdrawn, M-A-R-S, and I'm here.
Ok, vengo representando a líderes en la Unión de Campesinos. Más que nada soy activista, represento a varias organizaciones y represento a mi pueblo y a mi país que estamos aquí viviendo. Represento a cada voz que no tiene conocimiento y base a su trabajo, podríamos decir la ignorancia de información, permiten trabajos pesados como es en la agricultura. Una de ellas, su servidora, fue también en este trabajo de campo. En el área donde yo vivo, vengo de Beckerfield, está el campo de almendras. No hay un aviso que me llegue con anticipación de que va a ser esprayado el área. Tengo a mis niños, tengo a mis mascotas que son parte de familia, está la escuela al lado de mí, están niños en la escuela jugando y no hay ese aviso. Entonces no es parte de si se trata de si trabajo en agricultura o de dónde vivo, si vivo en ciudad de estado. Se trata de un asunto emergente, urgente de todos, porque tenemos niños. Este asunto es tan importante que necesito que lo tomen en cuenta. Necesito que abran los ojos. Ustedes tienen el poder de hacer ese cambio. Ustedes, porque ustedes son el eje de este comité, el eje de esta situación que se está viviendo.
Please wrap up your comments. We're running out of time.
Solamente les estoy pidiendo que se pongan en el lugar de uno. No necesitan vivirlo a carne propia. Eviten ese dolor, porque no sabemos lo que depara el destino.
Good morning. I am Mars Withdrawn, M-A-R-S, and I am here representing líderes de Unión de Campesinos, and I am an activist, and I am here representing my people, my country, those of us who live here. I represent every voice of every person who doesn't have the knowledge or the information to protect themselves. And so they end up working in industries such as agriculture, I myself worked in agriculture for a time. In the area where I live, I'm here from Bakersfield, and there we have almond growers. And I never get any notices ahead of time whenever the area is going to be sprayed. I have children, and I have pets who I consider family members. There's a school next door, and there are children playing at the school, and we get no such notice. So it's not about whether I personally work in agriculture or whether I live in a city or I don't. This is an emergency. This is a present issue that affects us all. We all have children, and this issue is so important that I need you to take our comments into account. I need you to open your eyes. You have the power to create change. You, because you are at the backbone of all of this situation that we're living through. All I am asking for is that you put yourself in our shoes. You don't need to live this personally. Please save yourself that pain. You have no idea what destiny may bring in the future. Thank you very much.
My name is Yaneli, Y-A-N-E-L-Y. And basically, DPR's plan would allow for 14 times more cancer-causing 1,3-D in the air that our state scientist, Auditorium, has says it's safe. Our communities are not worth 14 times less than non-ag communities. I speak for myself when I talk about communities of color, because that's what we're gonna call it. This issue in the room right here is environmental racism. What we're living here today, not just in my community of Greenfield, California, the beautiful heart of the valley, but all the different communities that you all have heard of today. And I also wanna thank all the parents that are here with their children. They're not here because they didn't get a chance to get a babysitter, but they brought their children along. So everybody that is watching into this Zoom recording or live, or you staff here from DPR could see that these are the children that are being affected every day by 1,3-D, known as Telone. And it's an issue that all our communities face every single day because of many of the stories that you've heard today. We all had funerals attended this year regarding cancer. We've had children that are dealing with cancer in our communities. And it's something that it's not talked about or it's not being broadcast as we should, but this is the reality that our communities of color are facing every single day. The cancer in our communities, our children being taken away from us. So we are no longer your canaries. We're no longer your scientific experiment, and we're here to give a voice and a name to every single one of us being affected by 1,3-D Telone. Thank you.
My name is Alexia Marpin, Alexiarangel. I am from Greenfield, California. My dad and grandma are agricultural workers, and I would like for them to be protected because it affects them. But not only farm workers get affected, but children do also. I am a student, and my school is near fields. I would want to feel safe and not worry about breathing chemicals. I ask for 1,3-D to be banned and to stop pesticide secrecy.
Hello everybody, my name is Noemi Chico, Noemichico. I am from Greenfield, California, Monterey County. I'm a member of Safe Ag, Safe Schools. My parents are agricultural workers. My husband is an agricultural worker. I work in a school and I have 2 children that attend school. So having this Telone is very cancerous, and we should not be even using it. DPR's plan would allow for 14 times more cancer-causing 1,3-D in the air than our state scientists at OEHA say is safe. Our communities are not worth 14 times less than non-ag communities. Using Telone on brown and black communities is environmental racism. We are not your canaries. You guys need to see this room and see how you guys are affecting us. It's only our poor communities. We cultivate, we feed this country, and we need for this to stop. All the stories are real. We are real.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Anabel Márquez, ANABEL MRQUC, y vengo de la ciudad de Shafter. En nuestra ciudad tenemos el programa AB617 y en nuestro comité aplicamos para una extensión de 7 millas fuera de la ciudad. ¿Saben por qué? Porque sabemos que esto no se queda en la ciudad. El aire lo vuela por todos lados. Es uno de los, tenemos el monitor en nuestra escuela Sequoia, pero ahí han muerto niñas y niños de cáncer y de no sé qué enfermedades que les dan los pesticidas. A ese monitor es uno de los 5 que están en el estado de California. Le pusieron en la escuela porque sabíamos que no solo está cerca de casas y todo, pero la juventud, los niños, el futuro de California, del mundo, son los niños. Si no protegemos a nuestros hijos, ¿quién nos va a proteger? ¿Quién? Díganme. ¿Qué va a ser del mundo de aquí en adelante? Estamos rodeados y el telón es uno de los pesticidas más dañinos que existen. Ya no queremos que nos vean llorar, que nos vean suplicar. Queremos acción, queremos que lo hagan ya, porque entonces, ¿qué estamos haciendo? Tenemos 5 años luchando con esto y les aseguro que no vamos a parar. Así vengan 10 años, 20 años, tenemos que terminar con los químicos. Mentira, mentira que si no hay químicos no hay agricultura. No es cierto, sí la hay, pero ¿saben qué? Ellos quieren ganar dinero a costa de nuestra vida. No quieren salvar a nosotros. Quieren llenar sus bancos de dinero. ¿Para qué?
Annabelle Marcus, ANABELLE MARQUEZ, and I am here from the city of Shafter. In our city, we have an AB 617 program, and in our community, we applied for a 7-mile extension beyond the city. And you know why? Because we know that it doesn't stay in the city. The air blows it everywhere. And we have an air monitor at our Sequoia school. But we've had boys and girls die at that school from cancer and other illnesses caused by pesticides. And that monitor is only one of 5 in the state of California. It was cited at the school because we knew that it's not only near homes, etc., but to protect our youth, our children, the future of California, the world's future are our children. If we don't protect our children, who will protect them? Who? Tell me, what will happen to our world moving forward? We are surrounded by this, and Telone is one of the most harmful pesticides there are. And we no longer want to come here crying and begging. We want action, and we want action now. Otherwise, what are we doing? For 5 years, we've been struggling with this. And I can assure you that we will not stop. We will not rest, even if 10, 20 years go by. We need to stop using these chemicals. It's a lie that we can't have agriculture without these chemicals. It's just not true. We can. But you know what? What they want is their profits, even if it costs us our lives by doing it. They don't want to save us. They'd rather fill their bank accounts with money. And for what? Thank you.
I'm sorry, Louis?
Yo vengo de la comunidad de Shafter, California, y aquí también estoy luchando por la misma causa de que se ponga un alto al pesticida Telone. Aquí en donde yo vivo es una ciudad con un nivel muy alto de Telone y está afectando mucho a nuestra comunidad. Y pues ya queremos que haya un alto. Tenemos luchando ya 5 años y seguiremos luchando por esta causa. Muchas gracias.
Good afternoon. I am here for Shafter, California. I'm here for the same cause, to ask you to stop using Telone here where I live. It is a city with a very high level of Telone, and it is greatly affecting our communities. And we want this to stop. We've been fighting for 5 years, and we will continue to fight for this cause. Thank you very much.
Mi nombre es Felipa Trujillo y yo también vivo en la comunidad de Shafter. Yo viví en San José, California, y vendí mi casa y me vine acá a relajar y ahora no me puedo regresar porque allá ya las casas son, una casa chiquita vale más de $1 millón. Y allí en la casa donde vivo, atrás hay muchos árboles de almendras y regan el pesticida y uno a veces no puede salir ni a caminar. y sabemos que tiene riesgos de cáncer de por vida. Y no solo eso, porque también está la fiebre del valle allí en el condado, en ese condado. Y mi esposo y mis nietos han tenido esa enfermedad y también es de por vida, porque deja dañados los pulmones y partes del cuerpo. Y ya tenemos luchando con esto más de 4 años y por eso venimos a que arreglen esa injusticia ambiental. Gracias.
Hi, I'm Felipe Trujillo, and I also live in Shafter. I used to live in San Jose, California, and I sold my home. And I came here because I wanted to relax. But now I can't go back because even a tiny home is now selling for over $1 million there. And where I live now, right behind me, there are a lot of almond trees. And they spray their pesticides. And sometimes you can't even go out for a walk as a result. And we know that it creates a risk of cancer for the rest of your life. And we also have valley fever in the county. And my husband and my grandchildren have had valley fever. And that also affects you for life because it damages your lungs and other parts of the body. And we've been fighting against this for over 4 years. And that's why we're here, to demand that you correct this environmental injustice. Thank you. That concludes.
My name is Bianca, B-Y-A-N-K-A, Santoyo, S-A-N-T-O-Y-O. I'm here because I've seen men multiple times throughout the year, practically every month through Shafter. Now we have Arvin and Lamont. And every time we're here asking, requesting for the public safety. We started in Shafter because of the high levels of Telone, and we started the 12 measures that are happening at the moment but are not safe enough for residents. And we continuously see poisonous communities and no regulation being done. Now we're having Dow's scientists give you what is interpreted as a safety level, and that's not correct. Use OWIHA standards as we've been requesting every month from all these communities. We drove more than 5 hours in making this possible, trying to make this regulation more and more enforceable and having a safer practice in our community. In Kern County, it's been used in multiple agriculture practices, all the way from almonds to grapes, anything in between. And as you know, the valley it feeds the world. And we can't even be in a safe community, in a safe place for our children, for our families, for our farm workers. We need you to step up. We can't have you one more time giving us a brief explanation. We'll follow up. We can't follow up anymore. We can't have more people dying every single day. Thank you.
Hi, Gustavo Aguirre with Center on Risk, Poverty and Environment, and I will not waste my time spelling my name. Drove 12 hours, round trip to, just use my 90 seconds. I came to this country on 19 years old. My dad was working at the fields. He passed because of cancer. My mom had to live without him for her last 25 years. I lost him at my early 20s. A lot of my co-workers on the fields died because of cancer. So I'm just trying to put the human side of it. And when I first came here to the U.S., I came to join Cesar Chavez's fight against pesticides 43 years ago. And still we are doing the same thing here, so I encourage you to do the right thing. My mother-in-law passed because of cancer. My wife passed because of cancer. And I don't know if you have kids. My daughter was 7 years old when my wife was, discovered with cancer. She started losing her mom at that age. And me as father trying to raise a girl, without her mom, is an impact, a personal impact on me. My brother-in-law passed because of cancer. Two of my sisters-in-law had cancer. So it's just an example of what an impact on one person one of millions in California, is impacting the pesticides. One of my co-workers passed because of cancer, and we both were sprayed when I was working at the fields. Am I worried about my health? Definitely, I'm worried about myself. And I know that you can do better, so it's in your hands now to do better. So please do the right thing. I think the statements on reason why were given by other comments, so please do the right thing now. Don't let me die without seeing progress in reducing the risk of pesticides to our health.
Mi nombre es José Chávez, vengo de la ciudad de Arvin. Hay muchos comentarios que han hecho mis compañeros que todos sabemos todo lo que está causando este pesticida. No solo este pesticida, hay 3 pesticidas muy fuertes. Y a veces da tristeza mirar a la gente de edad que está enferma. Y todos nuestros niños, la juventud, las escuelas están todas rodeadas de puros árboles de almendra, de uva, de pistachos, y todos los compañeros que son de ahora la fresa. Todo este pesticida, el ranchero no le importa que haga su producción porque le ponen el pesticida y todo va a nuestra boca. La fresa muy buena, sí, muy buena, pero nos está dañando a todos. Somos como los peces en el agua. Échenle toda la basura que tenemos en el aceite de nuestros carros, por donde se va el desagüe, por donde todo eso pasa. Y verán que los peces poco a poco se van muriendo, así nosotros pues debemos de buscar una solución, porque si no hay una solución para estos pesticidas, pues de manera personal, mi familia y de estos compañeros que están aquí, que hemos venido desde lejos, todos hemos venido de diferentes condados, y a veces como que los comentarios se quedan en el aire, como que nada pasa, y estamos luchando por todos nosotros, no solo por unos, somos todos, que se nos quedan nuestros comentarios y que no se queden en el aire. Muchas gracias.
Good morning, I'm Jose Chavez from the city of Arvin. As all of my colleagues before me have said, we all know what this pesticide is causing. And it's not just this pesticide. There are 3 different very strong pesticides. And it's sad to see all these people getting sick, our children, our youth. Our schools are fully surrounded by almond trees and pistachio trees, grapes, strawberry fields, and the companies apply all these pesticides. And they don't care as long as they get their production, their yield. They apply the pesticide and they don't care. And then we eat those strawberries, they taste delicious, but it's harming us all. We have become like fish in the water. Imagine if you dumped everything from like oil, waste oil from your cars into our stormwater system. That causes fish to die little by little, right? So the same thing's happening to us. And we need a solution. If we don't find a solution to these pesticides, I don't know what's going to happen. I can tell you personally, in my family and all these other workers who came from so far from all the different counties, and we all feel that our comments are not really heard. Nothing happens. Everything's just left up in the air. And we're here fighting for all of us, not just for ourselves individually, but for all of us. Please listen to our comments. Thank you very much.
Erika Alfaro, ERIKAALFARO. I'm a public health nurse, and I'm not going to go ahead and repeat all the things that have been said prior to the people that just came before me. As a public health nurse, I am a nurse case manager that works with kids who have chronic medical needs. So when I think about these chemicals that could potentially, I mean, we know that they're causing agents. Why are they still being used? Why are we continuing to affect the lives and the health of the people that are here, that are necessarily not, you may not know them. They're in my community, they're in our communities, but nonetheless, I just like to remind people that these are the humans that feed us. These are the people who are constantly breaking their backs to make sure that California is fed, that the world is fed. And we have to do more. We have to do more to make sure that people and their health are being protected. And that's all I want to say, and just make sure that you continue and actually do something, regulate, ban, make sure that something is done, not necessarily for your well-being, but for the well-being of these families. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tim Prado, TIMPRDO. I'm sorry, I'm only slept 3 hours. I work graveyards. Unlike you, I don't work a regular schedule. One of the things I noticed under regulation and also the ag industry complaining is the 50% moisture. One of the things I noticed why they're complaining and bringing on stigma is because it cuts into their profits. Instead of making a profit, they would have to take from their profits to replenish the water. One of the things I also see in the regulation, it doesn't mention anything about underwater and contamination of underwater. So in the past 10 years, I've dealt with TCP 123. You're basically preparing me for the future to tell residents of my community about 123D. So I'm wondering, when will you begin doing your actual work and cutting and putting more stringent regulations on these chemicals that end up in the water that my residents in Lamont drink? And then I have to explain to them why the reason why I have to increase their water rates is because basically I have to filter chemicals that were put there by agencies who decided that it was okay for you to drink dirty water because you were not connected to an aquifer.
Thank you. Mark Weller, I live in Santa Cruz County, and I'm here with Safe Ag, Safe Schools and Californians for Pesticide Reform. And back on November 18th at the Pesticide Registration and Evaluation Committee, I asked the following question: why was the June 2022 OEHA 13D safe harbor level not used in calculation of the lifetime cancer risk level for this draft regulation? The OEHA NSRL converts to 0.04 parts per billion, 14 times below DPR's 0.56 parts per billion from 2016 and what you're using currently. Do you plan to go before farm worker communities and tell them DPR's regulation is sufficient to protect them when another branch of Cal EPA indicates it is 14 times too weak? And here we are on January 18th, 2 months later, and we have no response from DPR to this question. That day, they said they're only answering technical questions, and I figured this was a pretty good technical question. The level at which you ground the entire regulatory system on. So we need an answer to that.
Mi nombre es Diana Mireles, D-I-A-N-A-M-I-R-E-L-E-S. Soy residente de Lamont, soy presidenta del Comité de Progreso de Lamont, y estoy aquí porque mi preocupación es sobre la decisión que tomó el DPR sobre eliminar el límite de uso del pesticida Telone. Porque este pesticida está causando muchos problemas de cáncer, no nada más cáncer, otras enfermedades también en las personas. Recientemente mi cuñado ha trabajado toda su vida en el campo y ha sido diagnosticado con fiebre del valle y pulmonía. Mi esposo acaba de fallecer el año pasado y desafortunadamente no falleció exactamente de eso, pero al final le diagnosticaron fiebre del valle también. Alrededor de la comunidad de Lamont tenemos muchos plantillos que están poniendo de las almendras. Sabemos que se está usando mucho ese pesticida ahí. Tenemos uvas y tenemos otras frutas y verduras que se cosechan, en las cuales yo también trabajé en todo ese tiempo en el campo. También nosotros, soy miembro de la mesa directiva de la ABC17 de ADN Lamont. Ahí también se nos ha informado que es uno de los 3 contaminantes pesticidas más tóxicos en California. Esas son nuestras preocupaciones. Lo que yo nomás, perdón, ya al último, no necesitan más testimonios que las personas que están aquí. Muchos están recibiendo tratamiento, quisieran estar aquí dando sus testimonios. So, tomen en cuenta eso, por favor. Gracias.
Good morning, my name is Diana Mireles, D-I-A-N-A-M-I-R-E-L-E-S, and I am a resident of Lamont, and I chair the Lamont Progress Committee. I am here because I am concerned about the decision being made by DPR that does not sufficiently limit the use of the pesticide Telone. This is a pesticide that is causing a lot of cancer, and not just cancer, but also other illnesses amongst our people. Recently, my brother-in-law, who worked his whole life in the fields, was diagnosed with valley fever and pneumonia. My husband died recently, just last year, and he didn't die exactly for that, but towards the end of his life, he was diagnosed with valley fever as well. All around Lamont, we see a lot of almond fields, and we know that they use a lot of that pesticide there. They also grow grapes and other fruits and vegetables around us. I myself worked in the fields for many years, and I am also a member of the AB 617 steering committee in Arvin and Lamont, and we've been told that this is one of the 3 most toxic pesticides in California. So those are our concerns. And just to close, you don't need any more testimony than to hear the people who have been here today and those who can't be here today because they are getting treatment. So please take all of that into account.
That comment, I'm Joshua Ram, Joshua Rahm, Director of Technical and Regulatory Affairs for the California Walnut Commission. And the California Walnut Commission appreciates the opportunity to express the support for communities and people of impact and the continued safe, practical use and availability of 1,3-D. 1,3-D is critically important for California specialty crops and U.S. walnut production. The California Walnut Commission works with California walnut industry comprised of over 4,500 family farms and 76 handlers that generate more than 85,000 jobs directly and indirectly, which positively stimulate the local economies for numerous communities across the state and more. Walnut growers require access to new and emerging technologies in order to stay competitive. Therefore, the CWC strongly supports safe and responsible product usage of what's currently proven effective and available. Safe and effective pest management is one of the many critical components of producing a successful walnut crop. Walnut growers utilize 1,3-D as part of their environmentally responsible pest management programs due to the exceptional nematode pest control it offers during the pre-plant process, protecting new walnut plantings. Current walnut trees are very sensitive to infection by root lesion nematode, and as little as 1 nematode per 250 cubic centimeter of soil can damage walnuts. Further pre-plant soil treatments are currently the most effective way to protect the new walnut plantings. Alternative treatment options, unfortunately right now, are either not as effective, readily available, face challenges to control the pest pressures, or face regulatory hurdles preventing application. 1,3-D is an important tool, one of the most in the grower toolkit to responsibly manage pests and prevent economic crop losses of the long-term investment in a climate-friendly walnut orchard.
Gotcha, if you could wrap up, please.
Yes, and without the time constraints, and due to time constraints, we'll be providing formal written comments to provide beneficial recommendations for implementation for all stakeholders involved. The 1,3-D is important to U.S. walnut production. Growers and PCAs who provide product recommendations strictly follow state, federal, and local regulations, ensuring that products are safely and responsibly used in accordance with local guidelines. We look forward to working together towards an even greater environmentally sound, climate resilient, and sustainable future for Californians involved. Muchas gracias por su tiempo.
Yo soy Ángel García, codirector con la organización Californianos para una reforma de los pesticidas. Y quiero empezar con lo siguiente. El respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz. Y en este contexto estamos hablando de la dignidad de nuestras vidas. Hoy se está hablando sobre un pesticida, 1,3-D, o también conocido como Telone. Es un pesticida que se usa para, como que dice dentro, y se inyecta muchas veces en la tierra. El problema es que es un pesticida que causa cáncer, un pesticida que no se usa en 34 otros países, un pesticida que en algún tiempo fue retirado del mercado a principios de los 90s y que después, por cuestiones quizás financieras, monetarias, se reintrodujo. Y ahora estamos aquí en el presente hablando de algo que ya se había retirado. Coincide de que el tema de qué niveles a permitir, coincide que es un número que es algo que la compañía DAO, que creo que ahora se llama Corteva, estaba apoyando en algún tiempo. Pero nosotros hoy estamos aquí porque queremos que el DPR se deje de querer darnos a tole con el dedo y que adopte una protección que sí valga la pena. Y esa protección es la que está asignando el Departamento de Obija. Es hoy, no mañana. Si hoy hicimos el sacrificio, también que se nos respete de esa manera. Queremos esa protección porque nadie de aquí queremos cáncer, nadie de aquí estamos simplemente estar aquí para, como dijo en su momento algún colega, nomás hacer. Me tomaré un poco de tiempo porque igual la edad también lo hicieron. Pero bueno, la cosa es que las comunidades necesitan protección de un pesticida que causa cáncer y eso empieza con adoptar lo que está proponiendo el Departamento de Obija, que es algo que sí es un punto de comienzo. Así que con eso me retiro, pero gracias y reconozco a las familias por hacer el sacrificio en este día.
As we wait for the translation, I have Lupita Sanchez, Sean Boswell, and...
Good afternoon. I'll be making my comments in Spanish out of respect for the public who made the sacrifice to be here today. I'm Angel Garcia, co-director of Californians for Pesticide Reform, and I would like to start with the following. Respecting other people's rights means peace, and in this context, this means the dignity of our lives. Today, we are here to talk about one specific pesticide, 1,3-D, also known as Telone. And this is a pesticide that is usually used by injecting it into the soil. And the issue is that this is a cancer-causing pesticide, one that is prohibited in 34 other countries. A pesticide that was actually withdrawn from the market back in the early 90s, and then later, due to perhaps financial reasons, economic reasons, was then reintroduced. And here we are today to talk about something that had been removed from the market. Now, the levels that are being proposed to be permitted were defined by Dow, or Corteva as it's called now. But we are here today because what we want DPR to do is to stop trying to pull the wool over our eyes and to adopt the protections that are necessary. That is, those that were defined by OIHA, and this needs to be done today, not tomorrow. If we want that sacrifice to be made today, we want for you to respect us. None of us want cancer, and none of us came here just because, as one of the previous speakers had said. And I will be taking a little bit of extra time, others have. In any event, the matter is that our community needs to be protected against this cancer-causing pesticide, and that starts by adopting what OIHA proposed, which would be a good starting point. I'll leave it at that and close my comment. And before I go, I want to acknowledge all the families and recognize their sacrifice in being here today. Thank you. That concludes it.
Mi nombre es Lupita Sánchez. Vengo de Tulare porque el DPR no incluye la protección de los inocentes. Mi comunidad no importa. No importa la gente que trabaja en el campo. Soy madre de 5 hijos. Desde el 2005 me he levantado a las 5 de la mañana para llevarlos a cuidar. Trabajo en el campo y también trabajo aquí. Necesitamos que vengan a escucharnos también. ¿Por qué esperar a que las enfermedades del SIDA vengan a nosotros? ¿Por qué esperar a que el tiempo pase y no poner un alto ahora? Es una injusticia ambiental escandalosa que el DPR no haya incluido a los trabajadores transientes en la propuesta de la regla 1.3D. El DPR les está diciendo a los californianos que existe un estándar para las comunidades no agrícolas y otros diferentes para las comunidades de trabajadores agrícolas. ¿Cómo justificar el DPR dos juntos de esencia? ¿Nuestras vidas no valen 14 veces menos? Hacemos un llamado al DPR para que rediseñen la propuesta sobre el 1.3D para adoptar el nivel de puerto seguro más protector para la salud e incluir protección de los trabajadores ausentes de nueva propuesta. ¿Por qué esperar?
Hi, my name is Lupita Sanchez, and I am here from Tulare. And I'm here because they are not protecting us. Our community doesn't seem to matter. The people that work the fields don't seem to matter. I am a mother of 5, and since 2005, I've been getting up at 5:30 in the morning so I can take my children to be taken care of and then go work in the fields. And then I also have to do this. We need you to come to where we are and listen to us. Why wait until these diseases arrive before coming to us? Why wait and let time go by instead of stopping this now? This is a horrendous environmental injustice for DPR to not protect agricultural workers in proposing this 1.3D rule. DPR, in other words, is telling Californians that they have one standard for non-agricultural communities and a different standard for agricultural communities. How will DPR justify this? Are our lives worth 14 times less? We call upon DPR to redraft their 1.3D proposal and adopt the safe harbor levels that better protect our health and include them in their new proposal. Again, why wait?
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Reardon, CHRISREARDON. I'm here representing the California Farm Bureau today. I'm just going to make a couple brief comments. First, we'll be submitting along with our industry coalition comments outlining our concerns on issues related to seasonality, acreage limitation, setback distances, and soil moisture. We also recommended numerous items that go after the whole issue of the risk assessment, science related to this regulation that will be detailed in our document that we'll submit as well. I think it's also important. It's a time when we have food insecurity, struggling rural ag communities, and thousands of acres of fallow property, which is like food prices to a 30-year high. We hope DPR will carefully look at all the factors for this essential tool. Pest management, no doubt, will be dramatically impacted and farm operations significantly impact as well if we can't use this item or Telone effectively in the coming weeks, months, and years ahead. I think it's also important to note that hasn't been mentioned today either, that California DPR has the strictest regulatory requirements for field fumigation anywhere in the world, and it has been for a long time. So, and it's something we should be proud of as well. There are very few options left for us on the table related to the use of this product, and I hope California will continue to lead the way as it relates to dynamic ag industry, and also if you could help protective as well. Thank you.
Kathleen Kilpatrick, Kilpatrick. 90 seconds isn't much time for all these stories. I've worked in healthcare for over 45 years and have grad level studies in occupational environmental health. I have a correction. The Watsonville Monitor is not in Watsonville. It's at a Telone school, and it's there as a result of a 1999 lawsuit, environmental justice lawsuit from parents at 6 schools, from 6 schools around the state. After 12 years, that monitor was just about all they got. Teachers there still worry about the kids with asthma, leukemia, and brain tumors. Watsonville is downwind and downgrade from Maloney, surrounded by fumigated fields. Santa Cruz County got a pilot notification, fumigation only in our senior neighborhood, which is ringed by buried fields. When notices started, they came just about every day for 6 weeks, sometimes more than once, mostly chlorpicrin, Telone, some K-PAM. They're all carcinogens. I discovered chlorpicrin is identified by such by OEHA and EPA, even though it doesn't have 65 or Prop 65 designation yet. How do they interact? We don't know. What's our exposure? We don't know. Like most ag communities, we have no air monitor, but it's likely to be at least as high as Telone and above OEHA's safe level. Our friends in the valley have it worse. They're in an air quality non-attainment level. We have a better ag commissioner who requires tarping and other mitigations proposed. Of course, we want an end to untarped fumigation. We want more than mitigation. We want a phase out of Telone and other highly toxic fumigants. We want healthy farmers, healthy communities, and healthy soils. Thank you.
Thank you. Woody, followed by Renee.
Yes, my name is Woody Rehanek, WOODYREHANEK. I'm with Safe Ag Safe Schools in Watsonville, but our hearts go out to Tulare, Greenfield, Oxnard, all the places in California, Stanislaus County, that have similar issues and stories. A society's compassion is measured by how it treats its most vulnerable members. Farm workers, children, seniors, the homeless, and medically fragile all deserve better than chronic, cumulative exposures to the toxic air contaminant carcinogen 1,3-D. It's common knowledge that Latino communities are disproportionately impacted by pesticide drift in California. Watsonville, Santa Cruz County, and the Bajo Valley are no exceptions. How do we know? We have that air quality monitor in Maloney Elementary School. It's been measuring 1,3-D since 2012, and all of the measurements have been above 0.04 parts per billion, which OEHA has recommended last summer as the safe harbor level. An average of 0.096 parts per billion over that 10-year period. And now Dow Chemical, that brought us napalm and saran wrap, is suggesting 0.56 parts per billion. I was alive during the Vietnam War, and I know that Dow Chemical, I have an innate distrust of their science. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Renee Pinel, RENEEPINEL, on behalf of Western Planet Health. First, we'd like to recognize and thank DPR for being cognizant of the fact that this is not it didn't use a one-size-fits-all approach towards developing mitigations. We do have some concerns and recommendations that where we're looking for some flexibility in how the mitigations to achieve the new safety thresholds are obtained. We would look for some flexibility in the calendar as far as being able to use more naturally occurring weather events in being able to achieve mitigations. And we are concerned about how, while we support being able to use multiple mitigations, how they may not be effective as far as being able for growers to effectively reach the suppression thresholds that we're looking for. We will provide detailed comments in our written comments that we submit to DPR. And again, while our members may not agree that additional mitigations are necessary, we do thank DPR for their thoughtful and collaborative process that they utilized in developing these new proposed regulations. Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Ana Rosa Rizzo Centino, ella, she, her pronouns. I soy presidenta de la mesa directiva del Central Coast Environmental Voters. My comments will be bilingual. He sido voluntaria del movimiento campesino por 25 años. Y quiero dar un comentario sobre algo que dijo otra persona aquí. Our industry rep just said that we have the strictest regulations and that we should be proud of that. Well, you know what? If people are still getting cancer, respiratory illnesses, and reproductive harm, it is not strict enough. All the people here and their families and the communities we represent are not disposable populations. After 25 years, the fact that this state still treats us that way is ridiculous and shameful, and environmental racism indeed. I myself lost a baby when she was 3 days old, Adelita Presente. In 2 months, she would have been 9 years old. If you had not suffered the loss of a child, I really ask you to think about whether you actually represent an industry and an agency that cares about life. Because until you lose a child, you don't know the value of life. So yes, chronic cumulative impacts are what folks are facing on a daily basis. So no more 1,3-D. Ya basta.
My name is Olga Reina. I come from Monterey County. I represent the United Farmworkers Union, and I took portions of Cesar Chavez's speech in 1989, shortly after his 30 days fast in protest of pesticides. What is the worth of a man or a woman? What is the worth of a farm worker? How do you measure the value of life? In the old days, miners would carry birds with them to warn against poisonous gas. Hopefully, the birds would die before the miners. Farm workers are society's canaries. Farm workers and their children demonstrate the effects of pesticide poisoning before anyone else. In response to Cesar's words in 1988, we are not worth 14 times less than any other Californians, and we refuse to be your canaries. Protect our public health. DPR must regulate 1,3-D. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Cesar Lara with the Monterey Bay Central Labor Council, CESAR-LARA. And I am one of 126 organizations that signed onto a letter. I do not want to echo too much of the comments here, but I want to ask everybody in DPR, everybody in the EPA, everybody in the governor's office, how is this not environmental racism? 34 other countries around the world have banned this chemical, and California did not use it for so many years and then started reusing it. Is money more important than people? The communities that I work in Monterey and Santa Cruz County, are farm worker communities. The #1 crop is strawberries. That means that we are ground zero, just like the other communities in the almond in the Central Valley. And we're asking that actions be taken. Long term, this chemical needs to be phased out, but the question at hand is, can we use the regulations that are 14 times lower? And I think the answer should be yes. I'm kind of disappointed that we're having hearings over this instead of action. And I ask that the department take all the comments that they've heard this today. We have seen firsthand what these chemicals do. I have a colleague on my board right now whose wife is getting cancer treatments as we speak. And she is a teacher in the Bajaro Valley that sits in a school next to a field. This is hitting all of our farm worker communities, all of our communities of color. If we were higher income level communities, more action would have been taken. This is disgusting environmental racism. Thank you.
My name is Rocio Madrigal, and I ask you to listen to the 3 generations of people behind me. 90 seconds for their decades of testimony, family members' deaths is not enough. That's rude. 1,3-D causes cancer. There's no way around that. Why are we not banning it? We are a first world country. The protections in California are nowhere near enough. Not when children not when people, just because they live near fields, are dying. DPR benefits directly from the over $90 billion a year, over $90 billion, that Dow sells of this Telone 13D. This is environmental injustice. It is environmental racism. It is about the money. It's no coincidence that our rural communities, most impoverished Latino communities, are the highest levels. 5 out of our 9 local monitors are in elementary schools. In 2020, Shafter had the highest levels recorded, and DPR did nothing. It is the ground nonprofit communities that took action, printed flyers, and went and told families about the imminent danger. DPR did nothing. More recently in Parlier, the Telone level was 1.16. Again, DPR has done nothing. No enforcement, no warning, absolutely nothing. Let me tell you about 5 people that couldn't come today. Eugenia, an advocate in Parlier, could not come, taking her mother to a cancer appointment. Victor, a council member in Mendota, survived childhood leukemia, but his classmate did not survive. A mom in San Joaquin could not come because she takes her 3-year-old daughter to cancer treatments. Tino Urias of Raisin City died early of pancreatic cancer, leaving behind 4 underage beautiful daughters.
Rosie, if you could wrap up your comments, please.
My grandpa Raul Rodriguez also died working here in the California fields. DPR is aware of Parlier and did nothing. My brother is an agronomist and a CPA, and contrary to Mr. Ron and the Walnut Commission, says we have other options, safer options that are less damaging to people and to the
Rosie,
land.
if I can wrap up, please. Your time is up.
One more sentence. Today I ask you to kill. Do the legacy of Michael Green. Kill Dow's prophets. Don't kill our children and don't kill our communities.
Thank you.
Here are 15 letters from the community of Cantua Creek, of 15 women and families that are surrounded on all 4 sides of fields that could not be here today, and they did handwritten letters for you.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Juan Vivian y represento a la Comisión Ambiental de Pesticidas. Soy también sobreviviente de cáncer. El señor dijo que traía papeles, documentos, cuales no valen, porque nosotros somos sobrevivientes de cáncer gracias al poco trabajo que está haciendo DPR. Sí, es un poco trabajo y muchas ganancias las que tienen. Nosotros tenemos muchas estadísticas de personas que han muerto por esos pesticidas. No tenemos documentos que evalúen que esas personas no murieron por los pesticidas, sino lo contrario. Tenemos verídicamente cosas y documentos que evalúan que las personas han muerto por esos pesticidas gracias a que DPR no está haciendo su trabajo que debe de hacer. Nosotros pedimos que regularice todos estos pesticidas para que ya no haya tantas muertes ni tampoco tantos sobrevivientes de cáncer. Por favor, si tienen un poco de corazón y recuerden que hay un Dios, se podrán esconder de todas estas personas, de todo el mundo, pero de Dios nadie se escapa. Y todo lo que sembramos, algún día vamos a cosechar. Muchísimas gracias.
Good afternoon. My name is Juan, and I represent the Environmental Commission. I am also a cancer survivor. The gentleman just said that we have documents and papers, but they're worthless. We are cancer survivors. But thanks to the fact that DPR is doing very little work, and so little work being done and a lot of profits being made. We have a lot of statistics showing people who have died due to these pesticides. There are no documents saying that those people did not die due to pesticides. On the contrary, we know and we have documents that state that these people have in fact died because of those pesticides. Again, because DPR is not doing its job. So we're asking you to regulate all of these pesticides so that we no longer have so many deaths or so many cancer survivors among us. Please, if you have even a little heart, do this. Also remember, there's a God. You may be able to hide from all these people, but no one can hide from God. And what we reap, we will eventually sow. Thank you so much.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Solórzano y vengo de Fresno, California. Soy voluntaria de la Unión de Campesinos. Yo conozco a dos personas que estuvieron a punto de morir en Dainuba, California. Se llaman Miguel Marzo y Rogelina Sánchez. Estuvieron a punto de morir en el hospital por causa de los pesticidas y nadie hace nada. Ni los dueños de los files, ni ustedes. No venimos a pedirles ni a suplicarles, venimos a exigir, porque las vidas no se recuperan, menos la educación de los hijos. Esos señores tienen niños chiquitos y los dueños de los files ni siquiera les ayudan para los medicamentos, ¿sí? Tengo mucho coraje por los que mandan a fumigar sin consideración, sin corazón. No piensan que también su familia absorbe todos estos químicos. Y nosotros, aunque no trabajamos, los que no trabajamos en los files, también los absorbemos. Así de que les exijo protección para mi gente, ¿sí? Y para mis hijos y para mis nietos, porque muchos niños nacen con asma, también nacen con asma, con síndrome de Down, y no hace nada la gente. Pero sí, sabroso nos comemos la fruta y la verdura que cosechamos, ¿verdad que sí? Muchísimas gracias. Y disculpen.
Hi, I am Maria Solórzano. I've known several people from, California who have almost died. Miguel Marzo and Rogelina Sanchez were near death in the hospital due to pesticides. And no one's doing anything. Neither the owners of the fields, nor you. We're not here to ask, we're not here to beg, we're here to demand that you do something. Because we can't get any of these lives back. We also can't get our children's education back. These gentlemen have young children, and the owners of the fields don't even help them cover the cost of medications. And I am very angry. I am angry with those who fumigate without any considerations, without any heart. Don't you realize your families are also absorbing all these chemicals? It's all of us, even if we don't work in the fields, we're getting these. So I demand protection for my people, for my children, for my grandchildren. Because so many children are being born with asthma, they're being born with Down syndrome, and no one's doing anything about it. But sure, we have these delicious fruits and vegetables, right, that are being grown.
Good afternoon. My name is Carmelo Castaneda, C-A-R-M-E-L-O, Castaneda, C-A-S-T-A-N-E-D-A. I'm an investigator for 30 years. I work for the offices of Carnes and Carnes. And I want to thank everybody here for coming. I came here 10 hours. Everybody else, different hours. But it's not only the hours, but it's the cost that we spent to get here. This is a serious issue. And like somebody said earlier, we're not here to come to a party. This is serious, and we're here to make sure this is we make a difference here. Each one of us here represents at least 100 people or more. So we're not going to stop. We're just starting. If we don't make a change, we're going to come back, and we're going to come back stronger. So I personally ask that you guys take this into consideration. If not, we're going to take other actions. And I'll be one of the first ones to make sure that things get done here. Because this is an issue, a big issue that we all have, losing family members. This has to stop, and it has to stop now. Thank you.
Ponce. Yo soy trabajadora de cuidado en casa a largo plazo y hoy estoy aquí para representar a toda esta gente y vengo de Fresno. En el 92 yo era mayordoma de FIL y en varias ocasiones mandaban a fumigar con la violeta que andaba la cuadrilla dentro de los, no nos avisaban, nomás pasaban y fumigaban. En el 92 yo tengo un hijo, hasta el día de hoy, gracias a Dios me vive, pero gracias al pesticida, él tiene asma, está enfermo de su corazón y tiene deficiencias de su cuerpo. Desde niño tiene que ser cuidado por otra persona, hasta ahorita no está bien. La persona que hoy cuido tiene 60 y algo años, toda su vida trabajó en el FIR y tiene cáncer y es sobreviviente de cáncer gracias a que él también su vida trabajó en el FIR y gracias a los pesticidas están como están. Y no venimos a pedirles por favor, venimos a exigir nuestros derechos. Si por favor pueden parar de usar pesticidas en el FIR, porque aunque no crean, toda la fruta y todos estamos dañados. Los hijos no tienen la culpa de venir al mundo todos dañados. ¿Por qué? Por causa de unos irresponsables que siguen usando y sin parar. Por más que les exigen, les dicen que paren de usar pesticidas, lo siguen usando hasta el día de hoy. Muchas gracias.
Good afternoon, my name is Maria Ponce, and I am a long-term at-home care worker, and I am here representing all of these people. I'm here from Fresno, and back in 1992, I was a field supervisor, and several times they would fumigate within the fields, even if we were there. They wouldn't even tell us, they would just air spray. And that same year, 92, I had a child. Thank God he's still alive today, but because of the pesticides, he has asthma, he has heart issues and impacts elsewhere in his body. He's never been well, and he's always required care. Now, the person I'm caring for now is 60-something years old. He worked in the fields his whole life, and he has had cancer. He's a cancer survivor because of working in the fields and because of the pesticides. So we're not here to ask you, please. We're here to demand our right. We're here to demand that these pesticides are no longer used in the fields because, believe it or not, they're affecting all of us. Our children, through no fault of their own, are having illnesses and cancers because of the irresponsible people who refuse to stop using these pesticides. Even after people clamor for them to stop, they continue using them to this day. Thank you very much.
Buenas tardes, soy Lourdes Cárdenas, trabajadora del campo. Ahorita vengo a decirles, por favor, que retiren ese pesticida, porque los que supuestamente lo regulan aquí, que están con corbatita y lo regulan aquí, pero cuando ese pesticida se va al campo, ya no lo regulan igual. Ellos ya no respetan al trabajador cuando no está trabajando, porque me ha tocado a mí estar trabajando y sprayan, cuando no lo deben de hacer. ¿Por qué? Porque ya ellos no nos respetan allá. La vida del campesino no les importa a ellos. Ustedes regulan una cosa aquí, pero allá es otra cosa en el campo. Les exijo, por favor, por la vida de cada uno, de nuestros hijos y de nuestras vidas, que respeten o lo quiten eso ya, ahora, no más muertes. Esto es un asesino silencioso, y así como nos está matando a cada uno de nosotros y a cada uno de mis compañeros que tiene cáncer y que no pudieron venir ahorita porque están en diálisis, ese mismo cáncer lo pueden agarrar cualquier persona que consume la fruta y vegetales que nosotros piscamos, y ellos no respetan. Así que hagan ustedes que respeten lo que están aquí, que supuestamente regulan este pesticida. Allá en el campo, en los files, no lo regulan. No más muertes, no más asesinos silenciosos. Hay muchos pesticidas que son igual, pero hay otros peores. Es ahora, no más muerte. Gracias.
Good afternoon. I am Lourdes Cárdenas. I am an agricultural worker, and I'm asking you to please stop using these pesticides. Now, those of you who are supposed to regulate it, who are here with your little suits and ties, don't realize that it doesn't get enforced out there in the fields. These companies don't respect the workers when we're out there in the fields. I've seen it. They spray while we're there, even though they're not supposed to be doing it. But they don't respect us. They don't care about the lives of agricultural workers. You draft a regulation here, but the reality out there in the fields is completely different. So I ask you, please, for the lives of each of our children, for our own lives, that you prohibit it now, remove it now. No more deaths. This is a silent killer. And just like it's killing each of us and each of my co-workers who have gone through cancer, can't be here today because they're going through dialysis, that same cancer could be contracted by anyone who eats these fruits and vegetables that we pick. And again, these companies do not respect us. So enforce the regulations that you have, because I'm telling you, out there in the fields, it's not being complied with. No more deaths, no more silent killer. There are many similar pesticides and others that are even worse. So again, no more deaths starting now. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Fernando, vengo de Fresno, California, y no voy a perder tiempo en decir, yo soy trabajador del campo y colaborador de la Unión de Campesinos. No voy a perder tiempo en decir cuántas veces he visto a los rancheros quebrar las leyes, rociando pesticidas abiertamente. Solamente quiero decirles que deben de quitar este químico de que lo rocíen los rancheros, porque es peligroso, causa cáncer. Y si ya los de OIJA ya dieron la recomendación al juez de que ustedes no lo deben de permitir, porque está 14 veces arriba de lo permitido y son ellos unos expertos, entonces ¿por qué ustedes lo van a permitir? Es como si un doctor me dijera a mí, toma 10 miligramos de este medicamento y yo tomo 14 veces la dosis arriba. Entonces, ¿qué voy a hacer? Me voy a estar dañando el hígado, ¿verdad? Y me va a dar cirrosis. Me voy a estar matando, lentamente me voy a estar matando, yo solo. Entonces, ¿por qué? Porque estoy irrespetando las reglas de un experto. Eso es lo que ustedes estarían haciendo, aprobando eso. Incluso un medicamento que me estuviera dando él, que no estuviera ya permitido. Es lo que están haciendo ustedes, poniendo un químico que ya no estaba permitido, la están volviendo a poner otra vez. Eso es lo que yo quiero que hagan, que no permitan este químico, que lo quiten. Gracias.
Good afternoon, my name is Fernando and I'm here from Fresno, California. I am an agricultural worker and I am a member of Unión de Campesinos, and I won't waste time talking about how many times I've seen growers spraying when they're not supposed to, or violating the laws and doing things they're not supposed to do. What I will say is that this chemical needs to be prohibited so that growers won't be able to use it. It's dangerous, it causes cancer. OIJA has already issued a recommendation. So why are you allowing a level 14 times higher if OIJA are the experts? Why would you allow that? It'd be like me going to the doctor and the doctor tells me take 10 milligrams of this medication and I take 14 times the dose. What do you think would happen to me? It would damage my liver, I would get cirrhosis, so I would be slowly killing myself because I am not following the rules told to me by the expert. That's what you're doing. Now imagine if the doctor tried to prescribe me a medication that was prohibited. That's also what you're doing. You're allowing a chemical that had already been removed from the market to continue being used now. So don't allow the chemical to be used. remove it from use. Thank you.
My name is Susie Elias. I came from RC, and it's important to protect our poor Latino communities. This is where I was raised at. I'm surrounded by fields all my life. I have a lot of cousins that have autism, a lot of health issues. It's very sad, and it hurts to see them like that. Don't let DPR use pesticides. 0.6 that is killing us and my family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Maria Navarro. Maria, M-A-R-I-A, Navarro, N-A-V-A-R-R-O. And I'm here today calling from Oxnard, California. Like many speakers that came before me, especially speakers from our area, I am also very passionate about this issue, especially because Oxnard is a very farm worker heavy community. I went to Oxnard High School, and I remember every day that we would see the pesticides coming in, and we would just have to deal with kind of the smell and the negative health related conditions that came with it. Especially, I remember one of my friends got cancer. He's thankfully better now, but I just wanted to come here and to voice my concern because I just can't believe that after, being in a country, coming from a country that, as an immigrant, coming from a country that has pretty much no protections, coming here, thinking that it's going to be a little bit better. There's still so much work that we have to do, and I'm just concerned that there's like 34 countries, including the European Union, who have basically forbidden this 1,3-D chemical and pesticides out of their country and banned it. And, I was looking at it, and the reason that they said in their statement, the European Union, is that the authority indicated that based on available information presented in the dossier, it could not finalize the risk assessment on consumers, operators, workers, bystanders, and residents, and identify potential concerns for groundwater, non-target arthropods, so including bees, birds and mammals, and soil organisms for all representative uses. So it is concerning to know that we are basically just continuing to use our area as sacrifice zones, where we are hit the strongest with these environmental degradating chemicals. And yes, and I just want you to, I'm calling for you all to just think about all of the people who have spoken here. Think about what other countries have done and really just assess and ban this 1,3-D. Thank you.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Isabel Ramírez y yo vengo de la comunidad de Greenfield. Greenfield, para los que no conocen, es un pueblito que está rodeado por puros files, por montañas y files donde se fumiga toda esta clase de pesticidas. Pero mi historia comienza en la ciudad de Watsonville, donde mi esposo trabajaba en los files de fresa y ahí nacieron 2 de mis hijos que tienen necesidades especiales. Me voy a enfocar en el más grave. El más grave tiene autismo, nació con asma y hiperactividad. Nos movimos de esa área por esa clase de razones, y mi esposo donde trabajaba tuvo que moverse también. Pero nos movimos a un área donde no había files. Mi hijo paró de tener ataques de asma. Gracias a Dios nos enfocamos en los otros problemas que tenía. Yo soy un ejemplo viviente de que estos pesticidas causan muchos daños y nos movimos al área de Greenfield por razones económicas también. Volvemos al área de los files y mi hijo vuelve a tener los ataques de asma. Eso me deja muy claro que los pesticidas están haciendo un grave daño a su salud. Ahora, lo más grave, el papá de mi esposo trabajó por más de 30 años en ese mismo field, él se quedó ahí. Hace un año, 2 años, el ranchero, el patrón, le dijo a él: ya estás muy viejo, vete a tu país, ya no me sirves.
donde cuando él toda la vida fumigó, aplicó los pesticidas, todas sus hectáreas, todo el tiempo él las fumigó. Del diciembre, voy a
Could you please
decir,
wrap up your comment?
del Navidad para acá, él se sintió mal, fue al doctor y el 9 de enero lo sepultaron en México. Entonces, esto es grave. Les pedimos de favor, no hay necesidad de que ustedes sufran estos casos, pero les puede pasar a cualquiera, como dijeron, ustedes también comen las frutas y las verduras que vienen de esa tierra que está...
Thank you, your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to have the next speaker.
Good afternoon, I am Isabel Ramirez from the community of Greenfield. For those of you that don't know, it is a town that is completely surrounded by fields, mountains and fields, where they spray a lot of these pesticides. But my story starts in Watsonville, where my husband used to work in strawberry fields and where my children were born. Both of them are special needs. I will focus on the most serious conditions. He suffers from autism, asthma, and HTA. And we moved from there because of those exposures. And then my husband had to change jobs in order to move. And we moved to an area where there weren't fields. And thank God my child stopped having asthma attacks, and that allowed us to focus on the rest of these conditions. So I'm a living example of the harm caused by these pesticides. Now, we ended up moving again in Greenfield due to economic reasons, closer to the fields, and my child once again started having asthma attacks. That made it clear to me that it was the pesticides that were causing this great harm to his health. And more seriously now, my husband's father, who worked for over 30 years back in the field where we used to live, he remained there. And 2-3 years ago, his boss told him, "Oh, you're too old now, go back to Mexico, can't use you anymore." When he had worked his whole life applying pesticides, spraying all of their acreage, and he was told to go back to Mexico. And right after Christmas, he started feeling sick, and he went to the doctor, and he was buried January 9th in Mexico City. So this is a serious thing. So please, don't wait until you suffer from conditions like these. This could happen to anyone, as Deb said. We eat those same fruits and vegetables that come from that soil.
My name is Eliana Miranda. I'm representing my community of San Gerardo. San Gerardo is a farm workers community in the outskirts of Salinas, California, and we are surrounded by agricultural fields, 360 degrees all around us. And we never once receive a notification when the fields are going to be sprayed. They don't even give us a chance to close our windows, bring our pets inside. Many of our members in our community have passed away from cancer or are currently battling. My own father-in-law passed away from cancer. He's been a community member since the 70s when the cooperative was established. And I've lived there for the past 8 years, and my son was born with asthma. Just this last year, this past November, he was hospitalized. He was in the ICU at Lucille Packard with a CPAP machine in his face. He had a CPAP machine on his face for 3 days, struggling to breathe. As a parent, that's the most helpless feeling in the world. And that's why I'm here today. Please, please help regulate these pesticides. It's a serious issue. Many, many families, besides the people behind me, there's hundreds of stories. And we don't know what else to do, but come here and beg you guys to please help us regulate these pesticides. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Juan Manuel Morán. Y he oído aquí a algunos que dicen que tienen 5 años luchando para que quiten estos pesticidas. Yo tuve la dicha de andar con César Chávez y nosotros tenemos más de 40 años luchando porque quiten estas químicas. Incluso en el 88 César hizo un ayuno que por poco pierde la vida, duró 36 días haciendo un ayuno para que quitaran el montón de químicas que nos han estado dañando a todo el mundo. Entonces, Ahora comprendo, voy a cambiar lo que tenía apuntado porque acabo de mirar ahorita algo que creo que por eso no hemos hecho nada. Porque personas que han estado trabajando aquí, ahora trabajan para los rancheros. ¿Qué quiere decir eso? Que siempre han estado de la mano de los rancheros y por eso no han hecho nada por ayudarnos a nosotros. Porque interesa más el dinero, tanto aquí para cuando hacen las elecciones, a quien eligen, no sé cómo los eligen a ustedes, pero ya ahora entendí por qué es que no nos ayudan, porque primero está el dinero, que la salud de toda la gente y todos los que hemos mirado que han muerto. Yo trabajé 23 años en una compañía de uva, 4 de mis compañeros murieron de leucemia, también por todas las pesticidas que echaban ahí en la compañía donde yo trabajaba. Así es de que ya creo que son muchos años y muchas de las muertes que han pasado para que nos ayuden y no de ayudar, les exigimos que por favor tengan más control de esas químicas que nos están matando. Gracias.
Hi, my name is Juan Manuel Moran. Good afternoon. I've heard people say they've been fighting for 5 years to get these pesticides removed. I had the pleasure of working with Cesar Chavez. So for over 40 years, we've been fighting pesticides. In fact, back in '88, Chavez passed it for 36 days, nearly costing him his life, to get them to no longer use these pesticides that cause so much harm. And I'm going to change what I had originally written as my comment because I just saw something that I think is a reason why nothing's being done. People who are working here, or were working here, are now working with the growers, or for the growers. So what does that mean? That they've always worked hand in hand with the growers, and that's why they're doing nothing to help us. Because money matters more. And elections matter, and I don't know how you all are elected, but I think I'm beginning to understand why we're not getting help. It's because money comes first, before the health of all of our people, and all of the people who have died. I worked for 46 years at a grape field, and 4 of my colleagues died due to the pesticides that were sprayed at the company where I worked. So it's been too many years, too many deaths. And we need your help, well, not help. We demand, rather, that you finally better control these chemicals that are killing us. Thank you. And that
With that, this concludes the public hearing in this matter. I want to remind everybody that written comments may be submitted to DPR until 5 p.m. today. That's January 18, 2023. Instructions for submitting written comments can be found on our website. At this time, I would actually like to thank everybody for making their way out here and attending on Zoom. I do understand that you had to travel for a bit for a lot of our speakers, and we have family, and we appreciate all of these comments. As I mentioned at the beginning, we weighed all these comments equally. So with that, I'm going to officially conclude the hearing and go off record. So thank you.
¿Valemos 14 veces menos? No, díganles, yo no valgo 14 veces menos. Yo no valgo 14 veces menos.
Yo no valgo 14 veces menos. Yo no valgo 14 veces menos.
Exacto, yo no soy tu canario.
Unido, jamás será vencido. El pueblo 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 callado jamás
La gente se pregunta, ¿y esos quiénes son? Somos campesinos y queremos solución. La gente se pregunta, ¿y esos quiénes son? Somos campesinos y queremos solución. La gente se pregunta, ¿y ellos quiénes son? Somos campesinos y queremos solución. ¿Se puede? ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede!
¡Sí se puede! Y aquí estamos y no nos vamos. Y si nos echan la economía se viene abajo. Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. Y si nos echan la economía se viene abajo. ¡Viva los campesinos! ¡Viva! ¡El pueblo unido jamás será vencido! ¡El pueblo unido jamás será vencido!
A caminar una vuelta para hacer el curso completo.
¡Sí se puede!
¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede!
¡Únete, únete! ¡A la lucha, únete! ¡Únete, únete! ¡A la lucha, únete!
¿Dónde vamos?
No sé.
Vamos a ir al parque.
Luis, ¿no ves?
¡Guíalos, porque no sabemos dónde!
¡Síganos, buenos!
Se ve y se siente, la unión está presente. La unión está presente. A la lucha únete. A la lucha únete. El pueblo callado jamás será escuchado.
Vamos, pasen, por favor. Pasen.
Únete, únete, a la lucha, únete.
No se puede.
Únete, únete, a la lucha, únete. ¡Sí se puede!
¡Sí se puede!
¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede!
¡Sí se puede!
¡Únete, únete! ¡A la lucha, únete! ¡Únete, únete! ¡A la lucha, únete! ¡Únete, únete! ¡A la lucha, únete! ¡El pueblo unido jamás será vencido! ¡El pueblo unido jamás será vencido! ¡Y un pueblo callado jamás será escuchado! ¡Un pueblo callado jamás será escuchado! ¡Que viven los campesinos! ¡Que viva! ¡Que vivan los trabajadores esenciales! ¡Que viva! ¡Que viva César Chávez! ¡Que viva! ¡Viva Dolores Huerta! ¡Que viva!
Amazing work by everybody.
¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede!
Así es, gracias, la compañera, todas, con el permiso de todos, chingonas, por esta tarde, por este día, por su tiempo, su valentía. Yo soy Ángel, soy parte de la coalición de Californianos para una reforma de los pesticidas, y hoy en este día quiero reconocer a todas las regiones que vinieron de diferentes rincones del estado para estar hoy haciendo presencia y hacerse escuchar. En esta tarde también quiero darle el micrófono a una compañera que acabo de conocer, que me inspira y que me anima. Por este frío como que ya hasta me da calor, ¿verdad? Por la energía que da. Entonces, ¿dónde está la compañera? Aquí se encuentra, así que si le podemos dar un aplauso. Híjoles, dinamita pura.
Nos preocupamos.
Estamos muy bien aquí, bien puestos, compañeros. Así se hace, compañeros. Compañeros, hoy les hablé en las palabras de César Chávez. Él hizo parte del discurso de César Chávez en el año 1989, que fue después de un ayuno de 76 días que hizo Juan Manuel. Y era en protesta de los pesticidas, así como ustedes igualmente, compañeros. Y decía él, para empezar su discurso, que es el valor de un hombre o una mujer, que es el valor del campesino, que es el valor, la medida de la vida. Y luego se va diciendo también, en los días lejanos, los mineros acarreaban pájaros con ellos para avisarles sobre el gas, el veneno del gas. Y entonces esperamos que los pájaros, los mineros que los pájaros murieran antes que los mineros. Y son cosas que César Chávez usaba porque era muy sabio, una persona muy grande, un líder que no se va a ver en muchos más días, compañeros, pero nosotros vamos a ganar ese legado. Vamos a decir otra vez, decía César Chávez, los campesinos somos los canarios de la sociedad. Los campesinos de sus niños demostramos efectos del veneno de los pesticidas antes que cualquier otra persona. Entonces, pues, yo sé, y tú sabes, compañero, que nosotros valemos más, 14 veces más que los otros californianos, y no somos tus canarios, no somos canarios, compañeros. ¡No! ¡Que viva la causa! ¡Que viva! ¡Viva César Chávez! ¡Viva! ¡Abajo los pesticidas! ¡Abajo! ¡Compañeros!
¿Se puede o no se puede?
¡Sí se puede! ¿Se puede?
¡Sí se puede!
No se escucha, a ver, vamos, ¿se puede?
¡Sí se puede!
¡Que vivan ustedes! ¡Que vivan ustedes! ¡Que viva el presente también! Y nunca olviden eso. Ustedes están aquí y se abrió paso. Pero ahora les toca a ustedes llevar esa antorcha. Ahora les toca a ustedes decir que ya basta. Y les toca a esta compañera liderarnos. Así que claro que se va a poder. No somos su canario.
¡Que vivan los campesinos!
¡Que vivan!
Unidos jamás serán vencidos, ya lo saben.
Fuerte aplauso para cada uno de ustedes.
¡Tu canario! ¡No! ¡Somos tu canario! ¡No! ¡Somos tu canario! ¡No!
¡Somos tu canario! ¡No! ¡Somos tu canario! ¡No! ¡Somos tu canario!
¡No! ¡Somos tu canario!
Y quiero de nuevo hacer unas felicitaciones a cada uno de ustedes. Mis disculpas si no me introduje, pero de nuevo quiero admirar a cada uno de ustedes por su tiempo, su valentía de estar aquí hoy presente, ¿verdad? Y ustedes lo que están haciendo, están dejando un legado de protección, un legado de que la historia va a mirar este día y van a decir, allí estuvo la gente, ¿verdad? Entonces, Para concluir brevemente, pues vamos a tener cajas de lonche de sándwiches. Ya cambiando un poco el tema, ¿no? Más leve. Pero por favor, tómense fotos, conéctense, porque recuerden que la unión hace la fuerza. Sin la unión, una organización, un grupo, un individuo no puede hacer la diferencia. Esto se hace en grupo, ¿verdad? Se hace en grupo. Claro que sí. Unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
This was an awesome display. You guys are amazing. I don't think they've ever heard so many people from farm worker communities talk about pesticides in any one place. That was fantastic. It's great to see everybody here. And let's keep the pressure on.
Ok, equipo, a ver, alguien que nos lidere para concluir lo de hoy con el aplauso de Unity Club.
Ok, vamos. Ready? 90 seconds. Can you say 90 seconds?
Muchas gracias por apoyar, por levantarse temprano, por estar aquí, aprender la lucha que tenemos que hacer todos. ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede!